So I thought it'd be fun to just model a nut. So we are just going to press X and delete the box. And from here, just go under circle and click on the 6 preset under polygon. And because we're under regular dots, we have world dots with nothing selected. So we'll just start from the center and bring out the shape that is to be our nut. And the tutorial's pretty much over. Just kidding. But from here, we are just going to drag the top face down and just add a few loop cuts in here on basically every face to divide it. And grab these new verts at the top of every loop cut that we added and just drag it up. From here, we can just press spacebar and just search for poke in our spacebar menu. And that gives us something like this. So we're already looking at a house of sorts, but we are just going to press Ctrl-Shift-B in order to bevel all the vertices. And from here we can press Alt-Shift-S in order to try to turn it into a circle, but we need to press SZ and 0 in order to just flatten this on the Z-axis. And we bring it up, and this is the foundation of our shape. So let's just press Q and mark this as sharp if in our Control-Tilde we have Apply Crease enabled under our sharp options. Let's also do the same with this. And we can also do the same with all the sharp edges that will make up this shape. And let's also select the bottom and do the same. So by pressing Ctrl-1, we can begin looking at this in a subdivided form, which shows us that we may want to also scale out this circle just to have a little bit more fun with our shape and also not skew the normals too bad for what's going on with the corners based on modeling this about 4 times. So from here, let's just press D, and under our shape settings, we want to change our segments to 24, because if I were to press Alt-V, go on wireframe, and actually count the amount of segments going into the center, we have about 24. So I'm just going to start from the center point, and we're just going to draw a circle, and then we are going to draw another circle, but this time we're going to press B and bevel it and just round it out and bring it up. No need to even bother with a particular count with it, just whatever looks good. And this is what we're looking at so far. So what we want to do is go ahead and apply subdivision, which is giving us a kind of trashy top. Let's press F and just turn that into just an N-gon. And from here we could just press, actually we got way more loops than we bargained for. Let's go back a step, good old undo. And let's try that again. Now let's convert the entire mesh. And this is actually a little bit more agreeable. Not by much though. Let's just select all of these faces. And we could just press my favorite hotkey of Control-T and Alt-J, which will end us from having to talk about any topology involving that. And so we could just press Control-B, roll the wheel in order to add an additional segment, and now we've added some reinforcement to this because we already have our bevel set to 1 with P, except we didn't. Now we're doing it under P, and then you can press A to go back to adjusting it. And so finally the area that we have to deal with is this area. Give it some reinforcement, and let's also grab from here to here. Same on all of these. No need to even look underneath because there's nothing going on. And we'll bevel them. And from here, we just want to merge everything at the center using Shift R because we don't want to have to press M. M's just a little bit far for your left hand. So that's when Shift R comes in handy. But whenever it comes to pressing F, F is actually very close to the left hand. So you should have one hand on your mouse and one hand on your keyboard, meaning that you can quickly just press F and jump around to the next one and continue pressing F. So by pressing Control-1, we're now looking at pretty much our near final result. So the bottom is the only area of contingency that's left. And so first thing we want to do is select the face at the bottom, and we'll just press Control-B, except we see that there's a lot going on in the middle of this. So now we'll press Control-B with nothing else, and let's just select this for grow our selection because we don't have all day. We'll press E and then S to scale it, and let us also delete these faces, and we can basically right click and use loop tools again to convert this into a circle, which is just cleaner for me. And also we can right click and choose to basically use grid fill if it was there, but it's not, it's in Shift F. So let's look at this from the bottom view, which is where I press numpad 7, then numpad 9. And maybe that's about as close as it gets. That's actually a lot closer. And we also want to unmark it. We want to unmark everything because we don't need marking at this point. We're converting it into a subdivision shape, which means that only the center area is the only area that's left. So first we'll extrude it, then we'll perform a grid fill, and that's it. We've now made this nut shape with proper geometry in less than 6 minutes. So you might be wondering, what about threads? Well, I was tired in yesterday's video, so I don't want to talk about that attempt, but let's change circle over to star and change our segments to something like 8. And I'm just going to use world dots again so I can just draw this shape right next door. And we'll bring it up, and let's press B to bevel. And we see that we also have a Q bevel present, so we want that not present. And so now we can press B and just roll the wheel in order to get down to one segment. And let's get something like this for our threads. And we could also shift scroll in order to add additional segments to this. So maybe we want something like, I don't know, 17. That's an uneven number. And it doesn't matter if it's uneven, I'm just being weird. So from here, let's press D, jump over to, from star over to circle, which we could just jump from another shape back and it will also revert it. And let's set to 32 segments. And I'm just completely deviating from everything that I learned previous. But before that, let's Alt V and look at our face orientation. Why are the normals facing the wrong direction? I was about to try to ignore it, but it just doesn't let you ignore it when your normals are facing the wrong direction. So let's just click and apply, and we're just going to pretend like that did not happen. So under mesh tools, I'm just going to alt click dice. But we see that in order for this to work out, we need to apply to bevel, which smart apply is not going to apply it. So let's just apply the modifiers ourselves, go back into dice, and we'll dice it like so. And you might be wondering why I still have face orientation on, it's not needed. But from here under the Q menu, we can enter the simple deform, and we're under twist, so let's just press X to change our axis. And that's going to unfortunately have to do whenever it comes to doing screws and threads, because any other way is just a level of insanity I'm not willing to go through. But before we actually do that, let's talk about converting it for subdivision. So we could hack our way there, because right now if we were to put subdivision on this shape, it's just going to turn into a black hole of nothingness, because these edges aren't connected. We need to triangulate in there. But more importantly, we also need to really define our sides, because our sides are just going to get eaten alive by the subdivision. So if we press Q and we add a bevel, we see that a bevel will, reinforce all of our edges. But if we press 3, we can get one that actually keeps the shape but also reinforces it. So we're protecting all of our boundary edges, except for that side that just did not work out. Let's look at that from the top, and I'm just going to put a mirror on that because life's too short to be dealing with things like that. And let's also add a triangulate modifier, because we could be going in and turning everything into quads, and it looks like it would actually fall right into our laps in a lot of areas. But from here, we can then go and add simple deform. And let's reactivate it, and we'll get something like this. And then whenever we put a subdivision modifier, we end up with something like this. So subdivision, of course, will turn everything into a quad, but we should really get in there and just Alt-T, Alt-J some stuff. But we're in this case Alt-J. But just like that, we've also made some threads to go along with our nut.